So, good afternoon. Welcome to the pop-up workshop. It's something that I put into our schedule whenever I get a free slot or an hour or two somewhere. I thought I'd just drop in a workshop. I quite enjoy doing these things. And those are all based on working over Zoom right now anyway. If you're free, you're welcome to jump onto them. So welcome. So this is the first one I've done of a pop-up workshop. And this one is on manifestation. There's a couple of reasons why I chose this particular subject, but I'll come on to that in a second or two. But this goes back to over 20 odd years ago now, donkeys years ago. I went on a personal development workshop, and it was in Moseley in Birmingham. And everybody knows Birmingham particularly well, fabulous as it is. But we're from Birmingham originally in the UK. And I went on this workshop, and there's about 8 or 10 of us there, and we're all sat on sort of beanbag cushions, all sat cross-legged on this floor. Very, very odd for me. I was running a transport company at the time. This all seemed very, very strange. But the guy turned up, and he said, the first thing he said, and this is the thing that stuck with me, he said, "What you choose to focus on will become manifest to you." And I had no clue what that meant back then, no clue at all. It also sounded like hocus pocus and bizarre tree hugging, crystal gaze and that sort of thing. But it stuck with me. It stuck with me. And over the years, it's been shown in doing what I do now, but also in terms of life and business, that I've learned that this manifestation, what we choose to focus on does become manifest to us. That's where manifestation comes from. And just to give a quick flavor of the journey that we've been on, and this is Lynn and I and the family as well. So this is a picture of Birmingham. Fabulous as it is, we started off, we lived in Birmingham. Jonathan was born in Birmingham as well, 30 odd years ago. And the event was above a cafe, I think, in Moseley. So that's a view of the rooftops in Birmingham. And since then, and not just because of that particular program, if you like, or product, that our lives took some dramatic changes. And I think it was due to some of the decisions we made and some of the ways we approached things. But we went from Birmingham, running a transport company, Lynn and I, and we were in the shadow of the Aston Villa football ground, a place called Whitton. So if you know Birmingham, you know Whitton, it's not the sexiest place on the planet. So our business and our lives went from there. We lived and worked over in Las Vegas for a couple of years, and which was crazy, ridiculous place to go, but there's a reason for it. I'll come back to that later on. And now, as some people know, we're chatting earlier on about our renovation project. We now live in France, very close to the German border, by Saint-Louis, and just south of Luxembourg. And this is a quick picture of a renovation cottage that we're doing up. So that's a picture of Lynn holding up the umbrella. She's holding up the umbrella because it wouldn't stand up by itself. But anyway, so we bought this old cottage. It was an old farm. It's got a big garden, all that sort of thing. And so we've gone from Birmingham in the shadow of the Whitton, the football club, into Las Vegas and to France. And I know exactly how that's happened. It's because we've decided it, we chose it, we've made it happen, or created the space for it to happen. And I'm going to explain just my take on manifestation. The reason I chose this particular subject, if you like, was because I saw a post on Facebook, and there's this person, doesn't matter who it was, they were talking about manifestation, and they literally said that they said, "Look, I visualized." She said, "I visualized $20,000 appearing in my bank account, and then, as if by magic, the next morning it was there." And she said, "That's manifestation. That's visualization." And to me, that's just absolute crazy. Like, if you do that and it appears in your account, that's not manifestation. That's something else going on there, I think. But it does a disservice to the whole principle and process of creating a future and of making things happen in a certain way and attracting the environment and the outcomes that we're looking for. So the reason I chose this subject is because that basically triggered me into thinking, that's a pile of rubbish. I'm going to give you my take on it, the things that I've experienced, we've experienced as a couple and as a family, but also for clients as well. So out there in personal development world, there's a myth around achievement. So achievement we're told achievement is going to be like this. We choose our perfect ideal outcome, and then we just do this. We go straight towards it. It's easy, it's smooth, we visualize it, it turns up, money appears in our account, That's how easy it is. And this is what all the textbooks say to us. Now, I think everybody on the call here, looking down the list, knowing you some of it as I do, and maybe some new faces as well, but it doesn't happen that way. Nobody's job or career or business ever goes from zero to high level of achievement in a smooth, straight line just by sitting and visualizing. It doesn't happen that way. What we know is, and I mean from experience, is that achievement is much more like this, and you probably recognize this as well, especially given the last 6 months we've had, is that achievement is like this. It's a crazy up and down and sideways. We have good days, bad days. We go one step forward and two steps back. And it can be tough, it can be challenging, it can be rewarding and exciting, but it's never, ever a straight line. We have good days when we think we're world champions, and we have not so good days when we think we're going to jump off the cliff. Or one of my favorite sayings is, we get a tough day in the business, is I'm going to go and, I'm going to drive a van, I'm going to drive for the supermarket. And we all feel like that from time to time. The trick is, of course, that neither the high winds or the very lows that we have, the elation or the depression, if you like, neither are true. It's all about just the journey. It's about progress. Reality is just making progress. There's no such thing as good or bad, just progress. And if I look back on my career, my business career, relationship and life as well, looking back, I can join the dots, all the highs and the lows, the good and the bad. I can join the dots, and it all makes sense looking backwards, but not so much sense when you're looking forwards. And I think the misservice or the disservice of people are given by some of the personal, professional development sector, if you like, is that it's too easy and straightforward to do it. So we've got to get used to it being a real journey. So what I've done, I've broken down my take on manifestation into 5 stages, not steps, but just stages that I think we have to go through in order to achieve what we want. So these are the 5 stages, and I'm going to run through them here, then in a bit more detail as we go. Number 1 is intention. What do you want? What's your intention? What are you looking for? What's the goal? What's the vision? Too many people know what they don't want, and they don't know what they do want. So figure out what the intention is. What is your intention? Number 2 is attention. What are you paying attention to? What are you noticing? What are you giving your attention to? Based on stage 1, of course. Number 3, opportunity. Opportunities are everywhere. They just are. Opportunities to meet people, even if it's over a Zoom call like this. Opportunities to meet people for investments or jobs or careers or clients or whatever it is. They're everywhere. But we tend not to recognize them as opportunities because they come dressed in hard work or blue overalls. But opportunity is key. I'm going to go through some little stories of opportunities that we've had as we've gone along as well. Number 4, and this is the missing ingredient, I think, in all of the personal development world, is action. You've got to work for these things. You've got to do something about it. I don't think you can sit on a rock and visualize and things just magically happen. If they did, I wish they did. If they did, we may not be on this webinar together right now. We might be sort of sat in Monaco on individual yachts in the harbor sipping champagne. So we've got to get used to doing something about it, taking some positive action, if you like, as well. And number 5, then, manifestation. Manifestation is a consequence of everything else. It doesn't just happen magically. So these are my 5 steps or 5 stages, if you like, the flow that we go through in order to achieve things or get what we want. Now we can also remember, what we don't want. The rules of achievement don't recognize good or bad. They just recognize progress. That's all they're looking for, progress towards something. So whatever you focus on does become manifest to you. So you need to be real careful what you choose, because it works in what we perceive as a negative way or what we perceive as a positive way. But the universe doesn't recognize negative or positive. The universe just recognizes progress towards whatever we bring in and we associate with ourselves. So that's why taking control of it, the first stage is this intention. What do you want? Because if you don't know what you want, well, you're going to get whatever you're given. So the first thing is intention. What's your goal? What's your vision? What's your future look like? When we had this transport company back in the day, long time ago. Anybody who's worked in transport, you know it's a rough and tough business, and we were working long hours, If a lorry driver didn't turn up, we had about 25, 26 vans, I think, and trucks. If a driver didn't turn up for the shift, then it'd be a case of, well, Lynn, can you go and drive a truck for us? Lynn has driven Sprinter vans, 7.5 tonners, up to Scotland. He's driven down to the south coast. We've been out in trucks with me and Lynn and John, or the boys, in like a baby seat in the truck as well. Anyway, all sorts of crazy things we've done. So we weren't very happy with the business, but I figured out what this guy says about what you focus on will become manifest to you. And the first thing he says, well, choose what you want. So we wrote down what we wanted. And we wanted, remember writing, got the documents on a bit of paper somewhere. We wanted to work with positive, like-minded people, travel the world, live abroad, specifically France, and also the USA as well, where possible. And we wrote down this list, like a shopping list of things that we wanted. And then what happened was, and it's only about 2 or 3 months later, but I'll come on to this in a bit more detail, a fax came in. I'll explain what happened to the fax later on. But that intention, setting your intention, is really, really important, because it doesn't focus the universe around you, but it focuses you within the universe. But there's 2 sides to intention. Is that there's intention of focus and want and need, if you like, as well. But also there's intention of being in tension, under stress, because whilst they're looking at the whole achievement in the universe, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't recognize language either. It doesn't recognize positive, doesn't recognize negative, it doesn't recognize language. If your mother tongue is English and you're asking the universe for something, well, good luck, because it doesn't recognize language, or German or French or Italian or Spanish, whatever language it is, it doesn't recognize that. What achievement recognizes, in my experience, is energy. It's levels of energy, levels of vibration, resonance, resonant frequencies. So you have to tune your frequency, your levels of energy, your vibration levels in with the people and situations around you that can move you forwards. And what happens is, when you tune yourself into these people, these situations, resonance happens, and then you recognize these people as being able to help you. They recognize you because you're in sympathy with them. Resonant frequency, that resonates with me, makes sense, I understand it, I see it. So having an intention is number one, but then look at your tension yourself, your level of energy. If you go into a room, you can try this. When you go into a room, not so much now with the lockdown we're under, but you go into a room with a networking event or something like that, all the miserable people hang out together, don't they? All the miserable people are over there in the corner, because they're that resonant frequency. They're all the same. They think the same. They look the same. They behave the same levels of energy. They attract each other. Whereas the positive, bright, enthusiastic people, the crazy ones, as I get called, are over in the corner over here. Different levels of energy. So when you look at the levels of vibration, the level of energy you're putting out there, it has to be such that is attractive to other people on the same journey, other people that can help you or guide you, or in terms of the opportunities that will come available to you, such that you recognize them. So intention has 2 sides: focus and vision, goal setting, what is it you're trying to achieve, but also tension. Think of the strings on a guitar, different notes you can play. That's that level of vibrational energy that you put out into the universe. If you're expecting to get a positive opportunity, but you're turning up in your life as miserable or Eeyore, you're not going to get a positive opportunity. People will avoid you. There's no resonance. So look at that levels of energy. Now, how do you tune into it? How do you change your levels of energy? Well, it's by your levels of knowledge, for example, the people you hang out with, the people you communicate with, how you treat people, the people you associate with, the one people in your network that you know are bringing down your level of vibrational energy. You might be married to them as well, which could be a bit of a challenge, I don't know. But if you find people that are bringing your levels of energy down, you need to move away from them, because your energy levels will rise. And what happens when your energy levels rise, you will start to attract people to you in sympathy and resonance with that level of frequency and energy. So if you want something positive, bright, and amazing in the future, well, guess what? You've got to tune into it. Then you'll attract people who can help you move forwards. So intention is the first one. It's a very, very powerful one. Doing what I do, I see this a lot. If I see people not getting a great result in their business, or not getting a great result in life, or whatever it is, and they say to me, well, this is what I'm doing about it. You can see why they're not getting a great result, because they don't believe in themselves. They don't have high levels of maybe self-worth or confidence or anything like that. Well, that's where you raise that level of energy and that positive vibration in terms of positivity and confidence and certainty and breaking through. So it's probably the most fundamental basics, but intention of what you want and intention of levels of energy, vibration, and levels of attraction as well. That's number one. Number two is then you need to pay attention. Pay attention to things. The people, the situations, opportunities that can help you, that guide you through, move you towards your destination, will be disguised. They will not look normal to you. They won't be obvious because they're not on that straight line. It doesn't happen in a straight line. So if I go back a little bit, we wrote down on our list, we want to live abroad, but France was a real goal for us. The real target was to live in France. And then after about 5 or 6 years of starting this other opportunity that came along, which I'll explain in a second, but an opportunity came along to go to America. I was like, how does that work? How have we got this opportunity to go to America? It doesn't fit. How the heck does that move us towards France? So you've got to pay attention to the people you're attracting, the opportunities that are being manifested for you, and recognize them as that. Notice them. They're everywhere. From a meeting with a person to a meeting with a colleague, it could be an opportunity with a prospect. Who knows what it is? They appear everywhere. And what happens is, if you're not focused on paying attention to them, we miss them. They go past us all the time. They're always there. We miss them and we ignore them. There's a fabulous video by a guy called Darren Brown. If you're in the UK, it's on YouTube. You can Google it. And it's called The Lucky Dog. It's a TV program. And what he did was he went to a village, or it's a small village up in northern England, and he sowed a seed with people in their minds that there was a lucky dog in the park. It's a statue, lucky dog. If you touch the statue, you got good luck. And then he just videoed what people did with it. It was really interesting. The people that believed they were going to be lucky as a consequence of touching the dog, guess what happened? They became lucky. The people that touched the dog or ignored the dog completely because they didn't think they were lucky, didn't get the luck. And they set somebody up to have this. They actually laid out, I think it was a butcher in the village. They set him up to be lucky. And they sent him a scratch card in the mail, for example, a little scratch card in the mail, and they videoed him opening it. And he'll open the letter, scratch card, you could win a 75-inch TV or something like that. He looked at the card and he said, I never win anything, and he threw it away. Therefore, he didn't win. Now, it was a guaranteed win. It was engineered. If he'd have scratched it off, he would have won the TV. And they follow him through. This is paying attention, not just to scratch cards, but pay attention to opportunity. Don't believe that you're not going to get them. That's the main thing. Opportunities are everywhere, but you've got to notice them. You've got to be alive to the situation. So what happened with us, we wrote this list down of what we wanted to do in our lives as a couple and as a family. And within about, 2 or 3 months, I'm going to guess now, 2 months later, I'm in the office at the transport company office in the shadow of the Villa Ground. Exciting was that. And sat there, and this fax came in. This is back in the old days before emails, pretty much. A fax came through, and it said on it, dear Mr. Holland, we've noticed you in your career and this sort of thing. We think you'd make a great business coach. And a business coach does this, this, and this. And the list they wrote down was basically reflecting the list that we'd wrote down. And it was a case of, work with positive, like-minded people and travel and add value and choose your lifestyle and this sort of thing. And I was like, wow, that's very, very spooky. And I remember I took the fax home and said to Lynn, look at this. This has turned up. Now, if we hadn't have written down what we wanted, I would have seen that fax come in. And nowadays it will be an email or a text message or something like that. If I hadn't have had intention, I wouldn't have paid attention to it, if that makes sense. I would have thrown it away. But how many of us get emails in from people or messages and we just go, no, delete, it must be spam. It's from somewhere I've never heard of. Get rid of it, delete it, and off we go. And I'm not suggesting that if somebody says they've got $20 million in an account they want to send to you, that you should go with it. I'm not suggesting that. But these opportunities come along. It might be a conversation, a meeting, a letter, whatever it is, a phone call, but pay attention to them. They are everywhere. You need to be tuned into them. And once you find them, then you can decide on the opportunities you're going to take. So pay attention is that one. The next one is opportunity. What do you do when you're faced with an opportunity? Now, with that facts that we had, it was a case of, do you want to buy a franchise to become a business coach? And this was going to be from a transport company in the back end of Birmingham, to go from that to being a business coach. I had no idea what business coaching was all about. Not a clue. We looked at it and we said, well, it sort of makes a bit of sense because got business experience and all this sort of thing, what was going on. And I said, okay, well, let's have a look at it. Rather than shred it, we actually said, well, we'll evaluate it. It looked like a possible opportunity. So we looked at it, and the rest is sort of history. We bought it and off we go. Now, the thing is, I said to my dad, who's no longer with us, when we bought this franchise, 20 odd years ago, and I said to him, look, we're going to buy a franchise. And what did he say, do you think? What did my dad say? No, you don't want to do that. That sounds risky. That sounds dangerous. That sounds like something it could be, outside of comfort zone. What do you know about business coaching? It's a lot of money. You've got to put some money into it as well. We've had to put thousands of pounds into it. That's dangerous. That's risky. Don't do it. Now, it's not to say you don't take the advice, but my dad was giving me that advice based on he wanted me to be safe and secure. We had our own business and working hard, but we were doing okay. We were doing all right. But it wasn't enough for us. So be careful when you get an opportunity come along. Don't base the choice on logic. You've got to base it on emotion, because this intuition, what you're focusing on, is an emotional construct. It's not logical. It's in your head. It's also in your heart as well. So we just use our intuition, and we sold the company that we were running, so that other shareholders got out of that, and we bought this franchise and jumped into it, not knowing what we were going to do. But within about 2 or 3 weeks, I was in Australia on training, and then we came back and sat down. Now I'm in the business coaching sector. Not a clue what I was doing, but we made it work. It was all very, very good. But opportunity comes along, but from unusual places. So when we had the franchise, for example, we still wanted to move to France. We wanted to live in France. That was always the goal. That was all the target for us. Then we had an opportunity to go to America, and literally had a phone call out of the blue. And the guy said, I know what you're up to, blah, blah, blah. I want you to come to the USA. We're based out of Las Vegas. I'll move you, your family across, come over here, help me run the business, all this sort of thing. It's like, crikey, what do you do there? And we thought about it. Well, that's not really on the radar, but something told us it was the right thing to do. Okay, well, it's Vegas, for goodness sake. Who wouldn't like to go and live in Vegas? So we moved, sold the house, sold the cars, took the boys, and off we went to Vegas and did that for a couple of 3 years. Really, really good. Now, what happened in Vegas, this is how it all joins up, was at some point over there, the company I was working with, they needed an office in Luxembourg. So they needed a CEO based out of Luxembourg for Europe. And in Luxembourg, you have to have what you call substance, which is an office, physical office, with a physical person who is registered in the country to operate from there. So you have to have a person, local person running the business. And of course, over there, we had a lot of Americans in the company, some Canadians and some Australians. They couldn't get across here because they all need visas. I didn't need a visa. So they said, well, would I go back to Luxembourg? I said, yeah, we'll go to Luxembourg, providing we can live in France, just across the border, which is what we do. So going to America from Birmingham, if you like, or where we were living then, to America, got us to France. It was a very disjointed way around of doing it, but it worked. And looking in hindsight, the dots all join up, but they don't look very sensible going forwards. You've got to be prepared to go on this roller coaster ride. Take opportunities. Don't just say yes to everything, but look for these opportunities that come along. Trust your intuition. It's an instinctive thing. I remember I said to my dad again, should stop taking advice from my dad. Anyway, bless him. I said, we're going to go and live in Vegas. If you've had this conversation with anybody, you can imagine how it went. And I remember the classic, he lived in, we lived in Telford then, in Newport, Shropshire, Telford area. And they lived in Telford. And he said to me, he said, why do you want to go to Vegas? What on earth do you want to go to Vegas for? They're all crazy over there. Well, they sort of are. He said, you haven't seen all of Telford yet. And I thought, well, yeah, I know I haven't seen all of Telford yet, but I'm pretty sure what I'm going to see when I get there. So we didn't take that advice and off we went. So we arrived in France by virtue of going to America. And this was sort of part of that dog leg journey that we made, which is part of the roller coaster ride. So when you see an opportunity, yes, you've got to say yes to it. You've got to go for it. Even if it doesn't feel quite correct, take the risk. And then you've got to take the action. And the problem with the whole personal development world, in my experience, is they forget that you've got to start working at these things. Opportunity comes with, blue overalls or green overalls. You've got to do the work. You've got to do the hard yards. You've got to learn. You've got to do the job, do the role, do the function. So we did, well, what I think was a very good job over in the US, did a good job in the UK. When we sat here in France, and we wanted to get our business coaching business back on track again. And we're sat here and we didn't have no clients in France. I don't even speak French very well. And anybody who knows me from Luxembourg knows that to be true. I don't speak French very well. And we had no idea what we were doing. So what do? Do you go back to the UK and resurrect your business there, get it running and come back? No, we just went for it, figured out a way. We found a way. This is 10 years ago now since we came to France. But you've got to do the work. You've got to be prepared to fall over, get up, fall over again, get up and fall over, learn as you go along and take this level of action, a high level of action, because that's how you're going to end up with the outcomes that you want. So it does start with intention. But the problem with the personal development sector is, in my opinion, it starts with intention and ends in manifestation. There's nothing in between. Whereas actually we know there are. So, and you guys know this, you can see this in the work that you do, the jobs that you do, where you have to be active and you've got to do a good job. You've got to be good at what you do as well to attract the outcome. So take the choice, make the decision, then take action, get on with it. Don't wait around for it. If you hear yourself thinking to yourself, I won't do it yet. And I see this a lot, doing what I do and conversations I have with people, it's classic. There's an opportunity comes along and somebody will say, yeah, but I'm not ready yet for that. I'm going to wait. I'm going to think because of the kids, the mortgage, the pension, the bonus scheme, the COVID lockdown, the time's not just right just yet. And it's like, crikey, how many excuses do you want to put in the way of yourself? Just crack on with it. You'll figure it out. And that's not to say go for everything, every crazy idea that you come up with, but be prepared to take this level of action. The house that we're renovating, we're not in that yet. This is another place we're in at the moment. The house that we're renovating, you've seen the pictures up there, is we saw the house in February time. We were looking for a property to renovate. We saw it and it's horrible. It's green for a start. It's dilapidated. The roof's all chipped in. It's got an old barn. The garden was 2 meters of weeds. You couldn't get into the garden. It was just weeds. It looked pretty horrible. We had a look at it with the agent and thought, well, it's got potential, but we moved on from it. Anyway, we thought about it. Well, we'll have a look. So she emailed us and said, the property's under offer now. It's gone off the market. That's it. It's gone. So we thought, okay, well, fair enough. Not for us. And then during lockdown then, in end of March, I think it was, we had an email come in. And she said, the buyers, because of COVID, they've backed out, which you can do under the French sort of regulations, if you like. They've backed out, not going to make the purchase now. It's on the market again. If you're interested in it, then have a look. And we sat here, Lynn and I sat here looking at these pictures. And there's about 5 photographs of this house. There's a lime green at the front. The roof's all caved in. The garden's all weeds. There's a couple of shots of inside. It was wired up in the 1940s. It's a mess. There we go. But there's something about it. So in France, what you do when you make an offer on a property, it becomes binding. So we went back with an offer and they came back and accepted within 24 hours. They sent the agreement across. And once you sign the agreement in France, it's binding on seller and buyer. So we signed it and we couldn't visit the place. It took us, well, at the end of lockdown, it took us another couple of months before we could actually go and see the place, let alone do anything else to it. So we bought a house on lockdown, almost unseen. Now, most people say that's ridiculous. That's crazy. You're an idiot. You shouldn't do that. You should, get a survey done. You should get this checked out and all that sort of thing. And yeah, the logic says you should. And I'm not recommending, this is not a recommendation to go and buy a property blind. I'm not suggesting that. But if you see something that you believe fits with your level of energy, intuition, intention, and goals and moves you forwards, at some point, you've got to take the risk of doing something about it. So it was an opportunity for us. we took action. And that's the photographs you'll see now as you go up onto Facebook and LinkedIn with us. We've got the electricians are in, the roof's being done, we've got the patio being done, we're piling into it. Hope it's going to be okay. So far, so good. But then what happens when you take this action, at some point, that's when manifestation happens. You get there and you go, wow, we're here. And this has happened to us in our lives and careers a number of times when you just know that you've arrived. One of the ones was we did an event in Cannes, and it was a fabulous hotel. We ran our first workshop abroad years ago, and we sat on the balcony of this hotel overlooking La Croisette in Cannes, the Mediterranean. It's blue skies, sunshine, running our own event with our own clients in France. We're on the balcony and we're drinking a glass of champagne or something, and we looked at each other. It's like, this is it, we've arrived. But it's not the end. It's a journey, not a destination. That was one of the things. We've arrived. When we're living in Las Vegas, when we were sat in the Venetian Hotel and having cocktails, wow, we've arrived. We're living and working in Las Vegas. We could see the strip from our house. In the bedrooms, so you could see the strip from our house. It was amazing. When we got to France and the house we now got up on in Remmering, up on the German border, we sat there over the weekend, built this new patio. We sat there having a glass of wine, looking over the hills, the countryside. Wow, we've arrived. That's manifestation. Manifestation is a consequence of lots of other things. It's not just the result of sitting and thinking about it. So, but doesn't end there. The fact we've got this house underway now, it doesn't mean that's the end. There's other things to happen, other things to do. It really is a journey. It starts off with intention, but there's lots of other stages in between. You will get there, and when you've achieved manifestation, because looking back, all the dots line up. In hindsight, everything's easy, but it doesn't happen quite as simple as maybe people have you believe. So, a couple of final points. Rule of achievement. People who've been on workshops with me before will recognize this, but the Zen Master, this is a movie called Charlie Wilson's War, and there's a scene in the movie that I love. It's just brilliant, and it's called the Zen Master. And what happened is this guy, Philip Seymour Hoffman, who tragically no longer with us, fabulous actor, in his role of in the CIA, he's speaking with Tom Hanks. And he tells a story that in this village, in this country, the father buys his son a horse, and the whole village goes, "That's amazing! That's a fantastic! What a good news! Fabulous! What a gift! What a good bit of news! You've given your son a horse." And of course, the Zen Master says, "Oh, that's great. We'll see." Then 2 or 3 weeks later, the son is riding the horse, falls off, breaks his leg, and the whole village say, "Well, that is tragic. That's what a sad story, very tragic. I hope you're going to be okay. There's a very sad story." And the Zen Master says, "Yeah, well, we'll see." Then the week after, the military are recruiting soldiers for a battle, for a war somewhere. They come to the village. Because the son has got a broken leg, he can't be conscripted into the military. And the village go, "Wow, that's amazing. That's great. That's good luck. Fantastic. Well done. Very, very fortunate." And the Zen Master says, "Yeah, we'll see." And this goes on and on. You can see where the story is going. So whatever happens, it's never a straight line. If you get good news or bad news, it's all part of the journey. Manifestation is not positive or negative, it's progress. That's my biggest learning. You're going to get ups and downs and challenges, and things go right and things go wrong. But achievement doesn't recognize that. It recognizes movement. It recognizes energy, not language. It recognizes vibration, not wish lists. So when you look at your life and your career and your business, life is not linear. It doesn't happen that way. It is complex, and it's not good or bad either. There's no such thing as good or bad. We attach good or bad to situations. That's a construct we apply to it. It's just progress. So providing you're making progress, that's how the magic happens. So manifestation is a consequence of ups and downs and sideways and choices and opportunity, and it's a whole mix of things together. And you get there in the end, but be prepared for the journey. Be prepared to raise your levels of vibrational energy such that you attract people to you. And it's really interesting, and maybe you'll discuss this on the breakouts, maybe, I don't know. But people who we work with, and they've got some people who work with us direct on the call today, or people know us. And one of the common bits of feedback that we get is that everybody that we work with, when they meet up at an event or a workshop or a Zoom meeting like this, it's it all makes sense. They all get on together because they're all very similar, and they are in a good way. They're different but similar, if that makes sense, because similar levels of energy and spirit and vibration and personality, because not we attract, we fit with those people, and that's how it goes. I've chosen the sort of people I want to work with, and I'm very fortunate, they choose us to work with them. That's how it goes. That's that synchronicity, that resonation of levels of energy and vibration. But life is progress. That's what it's all about. So that concludes the content. What I'm going to suggest we do now is go into the breakout rooms. I'm going to stop recording in a second or two. The question for you guys is, what will you manifest in your future? What are you looking for? How are you going to do it? What's your experience of manifesting progress? The good, the bad, the ugly. What are you aiming for? What are you shooting for? What's your intention? How have you progressed in your life and in your career, the good and the bad? Just compare notes. So I'm going to put into breakout rooms in a second or two. I'll stop recording in a second or two as well. And then I'll join you in the breakout rooms for about 15, 20 minutes for sort of a discussion. For those people who aren't on the event and you'd like to get in touch, there's no sales pitch here, but you can find me on LinkedIn, David Holland MBA. You can email me at davidholland@resultsrulesok.com. It'd be great to hear from you. If you want to find out more about what we do, just check out our website, resultsrulesok.com, and I look forward to updates as we go along. Okay, so let me just find the